Sue Rathmell, who is the VAT partner at MHA MacIntyre Hudson, who are patrons of the chambers and also brilliantly knowledgeable on this particular area and in all of the sort of false dawns that we've had with Brexit over the years. Sue and her team have always been very quick to step forward and to provide clarity and some continuity in the complex area of VAT and customs and duty changes. So, without further ado, I would like to hand over to Sue. Good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you, Tudor. Thank you very much. And I'm always a bit worried when I get an introduction like that. Oh, here's somebody who knows all about it, because, oh my God, nobody knows all about this, do they? And, you know, as each day comes along, there's something new that that we find that, you know, we don't know, and asking HMRC is completely pointless because they just don't answer our questions. So what I will give you is my best shot at what's going to happen on the 1st of January. I'm just going to share my screen. So excellent. We've got an hour to get through the slides that I have. But for me, and probably for you, the most important thing is questions, Q&A. And I saw there was a question already. Please do share your questions, and we'll have time at the end to make sure that we cover those. Any that I can't answer, I'll take away. I heard Tudor say there, you've got some from this morning to take away, and I'll take them away and get the answers back to you as and when I can, as I say, because, you know, there are some things that we just don't know at the moment. So let's start. What I'm going to do here is to run through what we know so far about Brexit. We've left the EU. Brexit has already happened, but we use this term, you know, to cover all this period of time effectively. On 1 January 2021, we come out of the transitional period. We know there'll be no extension to the transitional period, or at least Boris has told us that. And we know that there are trade negotiations going on at the moment, but that's about all we do know at the moment. We haven't got any more news about that. So I'm going to look at moving goods around the UK and the EU, and providing services between the UK and the EU. So I'm going to cover the VAT, the duty effects on goods, and the VAT effects on provision of services between the UK and the EU. And I can also cover vice versa. So I will cover that briefly. I don't know how many people there are on the call who are from outside of the UK, but I will happily cover that side of things as well. So 29 days to go. HMRC's website has a very helpful clock, which is counting down the days so that we don't forget. 29 days to go left to agree a trade deal. But there's some idea out there that a trade deal would be a panacea for everything and it would solve every problem, but it's not the case. If there were to be a deal, we would expect that all that would do would be to deal with the customs duty rates that apply to goods moving between the UK and the EU. It's not going to impact on the fact that there will still need to be customs declarations, and also that the VAT issues that I'm going to share with you, that those will still be around. Okay, so a deal will not solve everything. I think that's what we need to keep in mind. But no deal definitely means additional costs from customs duties and, as I say, the VAT issue. So let's start. Here is a helpful timeline, and as time goes by, I say, oh, let's not look at the left-hand side. So the left-hand side is everything that hasn't happened, all of the deadlines that have passed. If we look at the middle there, so 1 January 2021 is kind of D-Day. We've got the meetings there that are happening in December, European Council meeting, and so on. And those are the last meetings before the end of the year, if anything is to be agreed. On the right-hand side there, you're probably aware that we have kind of a 6-month transitional period.
Hi, Sue. I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
So sorry.
Can you not see?
Only part of the screen is available at the moment.
Okay.
If we stop sharing
Yeah.
for 1 second, that's it. And then if you go to share again and then the advanced tab, you'll see portion of screen.
No, it's portion of screen.
So if you click share screen and then the second tab along the top, so you've got basic, then advanced.
Yep, I've got the advanced open.
And then one of the boxes there should say portion of screen. Is that
Well, it
available
doesn't.
at all?
No, it says how many participants can share at the same time. Have I clicked the right one? Let's try this. Oh,
It's actually when you click on the share screen icon as opposed to the drop down list to the right.
oh, right. Okay, let me try that again then. Sorry about this, guys. Let's get this sorted.
So when you click on the share screen, you'll normally be presented with the windows
that are open.
And at the top there, you can see basic, advanced, and files.
Yes.
If you click on advanced,
yes. Oh,
and then you
and
have portion of screen, and then you'll be able to resize the border to fit your slide.
So do I click share now?
Yep.
Yes, please. Yeah. Perfect. And then you should see a green box on your screen, and then you should be able to resize that.
Oh. Is that working?
So move the borders around so that you can actually move it to the edge of the slide.
Yeah, we're getting there, I think.
It's coming through.
That better?
There
Perfect.
you go. Perfect. Well done.
Is that all right? Oh, good.
Yes.
Okay. I hope you didn't miss too much of the previous slides.
No, I think the first one was okay. So perfect.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. No, that's fine.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Lucy.
Yeah. It's good to get it right. Absolutely. Okay, so this first 6-month period, there's a bit of an allowance for businesses. You don't have to provide the full declarations until 1 July, 6 months after the date of the entry. But a lot of businesses are finding that that's not particularly helpful. So most businesses that I'm talking to are going to be making the full declaration from day one. So this is what I'm going to be having a look at. Firstly, what are the changes that we're going to see? So the UK has a new global tariff, and that is going to take effect from 1 January. It's already available on the internet. You can go in, you can look up your commodity codes to see what the new UK tariff will be on your products coming into the UK. And there has been some simplifications. So they've got rid of, numbers after a decimal point. So like we say, 6.5 has gone down to 6, and scrapping of nuisance tariffs. I love that word, nuisance tariffs under 2%. So there, if something was previously 1 or 1.5%, it's now tariff free, which is good. Removal of complicated calculations on agricultural goods, and you can, as I say, you can use the tariff checker to compare your commodity code from now to the 1st of January, and I recommend that you do that. You get on there and check. Also, another good change is that import VAT to date on goods coming in from outside the EU would have to be paid at the point of import into the UK. But the government has helpfully decided that actually we can postpone payment of that import VAT onto the VAT return covering that period rather than having to pay it up front. So it's really good because that means that you pay it on the VAT return, you claim it on the same VAT return, so there's no cost there. You're not paying it and then waiting 3 months to recover it. So that's really good news, good cash flow benefit. And that also means that they have taken out of the calculation of the duty deferment guarantee. So if you have a duty deferment account, usually you have to provide a guarantee from a bank. And HMRC said, well, we're not going to include the amount of the import VAT when we calculate the guarantee requirement. You don't have to defer it anymore, so therefore it shouldn't be part of the calculation. So that's a good adjustment. And also they've said that if you're a UK entity, then you can apply for a waiver for the duty deferment guarantee. So you don't have to provide a guarantee if the amount's less than 10k and you have a good compliance record, or if the amount is more than 10k, you have to provide proof of your net assets and liquidity, etc., to confirm that, you know, HMRC can trust you to pay the amount. But I think that is really good news. A lot of businesses have found now that they can reduce the guarantee on their duty deferment account because the VAT has been taken out of the measure, and also, you know, some of them have been able to actually get rid of the guarantee altogether. So a bit of good news. I'm going to look at the talk about e-commerce changes as well. This low value consignment relief. It's the measure that allows you to bring into the UK goods that are less than £15. Just check my notes, £15. So you don't pay import VAT on goods coming into the UK that are less than £15. But that is going to go for the UK from 1 January and be replaced by new rules, but it will remain in the EU for 6 months. So what that means is that UK businesses will be able to move low value items into the EU without paying import VAT for a full 6 months after the rule has left been taken out of the UK legislation. So that's also quite good news if you're moving low value goods around the EU. Northern Ireland, well, obviously we all know this is a tricky one. Northern Ireland will have sort of a foot in both camps as we understand it. So it will be part of the United Kingdom for moving goods from the UK to Northern Ireland, and it will be part of the EU because of its proximity, next door neighbour, Ireland, and the fact that there will be no border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. So what HMRC have said is that when you move goods from the mainland Great Britain into Northern Ireland, you will have to make a declaration. You'll have to declare the goods going in, and you will have to pay customs duties. It's when those go in, and they've asked businesses who are sending goods to Northern Ireland to register for this trader support system, but it isn't really clear at the moment exactly what that system is going to do. I mean, the idea is that it will create the declarations for you, but we haven't seen that yet. But you should register, and you will receive a special NI EORI number, so a Northern Ireland EORI number. So do that if there's any chance that you'll be moving goods into Northern Ireland, any chance at all, so that you're ready and prepared. Okay. You've probably looked at this already today, but obviously my presentation covers Incoterms as well, because I'm looking at moving goods and the different VAT and duty treatments depending on the actual Incoterms that are being used for the movement of goods or for the supply of goods. You probably know that Incoterms determine who will be the importer of record and who will be responsible for paying duty and import VAT. And the ones that we generally are dealing with at the moment are DDP, which means that the seller is having to import into the country of their customer. And generally speaking, that means that a VAT registration will be required in your customer's country. If you're selling DDP into, for example, France, you would register in France because you're the importer of record. You have to pay the duty. If there is any, you have to pay the VAT. But we can also talk about ex-works, FCA, DAP, which mean that the buyer is the importer, which is much better for you. I'll put this slide up here. I hope you can see that. You probably, that's available on the internet. But the important thing is, and what I'm seeing from our clients, is that at the moment, both customers in the EU who are buying goods from UK suppliers and also customers in the UK who are buying goods from EU suppliers are all saying, we want DDP. which kind of makes sense because they don't want to have to deal with the import of those goods. They haven't had to previously, they don't want to now. So they want the seller to be responsible for the import of the goods. So if you have a French seller of goods into the UK, then the UK customer is saying, well, we want you to deal with the import into the UK. That means that the French entity will have to register for VAT in the UK in order to pay the import VAT and to declare and pay the duty if there is any. And the same thing goes going the other way into the EU. So let's have a look at that, how that's going to work with an example, a typical supply chain post-Brexit. This is in case of a no deal, so assuming that things stay as they are. We've got a UK business who is selling goods into the EU, to customers within the EU. If they sell X works, then that means that the customer will pick up those goods in the UK and will be responsible for the export and for taking those goods out of the UK. So I say their export declaration, buyer or seller, because the seller would be liable for the export declaration in that situation. But don't forget, the buyer needs that in order to prove that the goods have left the UK to support their zero rating of those goods. So if you're in that situation, you're selling X works, make sure you can get hold of the export declaration if you're not the one who's doing it, because you need that to prove your zero rating. In terms of going into the EU, the customer is the importer of record into the EU. So really that's best for UK sellers, if you like, because they don't have to be involved with any of the export declaration or import declaration. DDP, as I said, if you're selling DDP, then the seller's responsible all the way to the door of their customer within the EU. They are the importer of record into the EU, and that will likely require a VAT registration, possibility of having to appoint a fiscal or general representative within the EU, and that is both costly and takes time to set up. So if you're in that situation, you need to be dealing with that right now. You need to be working out how you're going to cope with that after the 1st of January. Selling DAP, so this would also work where your customer is the importer of record into the EU country, but if you sell DAP with the supplier responsible for payment of the duty and the VAT, then or the duties, then it can be recharged to the supplier. The customer will account for the import VAT, which is recoverable. So import VAT, generally speaking, recoverable by the importer on the basis that they're using those goods to make supplies in their own country. A quick word about customs relief regimes. So if we do end up with positive duty rates, so if there is no deal and we're left with duty, both with goods moving into the UK and with goods moving into the EU, then there are some things that you can put in place in order to try and minimize those duty costs. Because the worst thing that could happen is, let's say you are a UK business and you are buying in goods from Asia, let's say from China, they come into the UK, and then you hold a stock and then you sell them to customers in the EU, you've kind of got a double dip of duty there, because you've got duty when the goods come into the UK, and then you've got customs duty when the goods go into the EU. So potentially you've paid 2 lots of duty on those goods, and obviously you want to avoid that situation from happening, and customs warehousing would do that for you. You only pay the duty when the goods are finally imported into the EU. So you bring goods into the UK, but they don't actually hit the UK for customs purposes. You have to be registered to use customs warehousing. It's quite a tricky thing to set up, but it is possible. And if it means that you're saving a fair amount of duty, I was talking to a client this morning, and potentially they were saving over £1 million worth of duty if there's no deal by having a customs warehouse. So it really makes sense. Inward processing relief also avoids the double duty hit, and that can be used where, let's say, you're bringing those goods in from China, you are then doing some kind of process to them, which could be just repacking, or could be putting something together, and then the goods are going out again into the EU or outside the EU. If you have inward processing relief, then that means that you're not paying duty when the goods come into the UK. As long as the goods leave the UK, there's no duty to be paid. If the goods do come into the UK, let's say you package them together in some way, some of them are released to the UK, you pay duty and import VAT on those goods when they come into the UK. So inward processing relief can be very helpful too. Customs freight simplified procedures. If you know that you're going to have a lot of customs declarations, then you could submit those yourself rather than using an agent, or if you have a customs warehouse as well. The simplified procedures should enable you to submit your own customs declarations. Most of my clients are, at least for the time being, using an agent to submit their declaration. It's too difficult to try and set themselves up at the moment in order to do that. So I think for a lot of clients, they're thinking, well, let's see how that first month or so goes. Let's see what's going to happen, whether there's lots of delays, and whether a customs warehouse would help, etc. It's sort of a wait and see type situation, and the same goes with submitting your own customs declarations. Approved exporter, if there is a trade deal, then origin of the goods, which determines the liability to duty, will become very important. And approved exporter allows companies to simplify origin documents so that reduce costs and delays. So that's another possibility to think about. Some of these things take quite some time to put in place, like the warehousing and the IPR. But if you don't start, then you won't get it in place at all. So rather start now and perhaps be ready, February time, than not do anything at all. Beg your pardon. Here's an example then of a warehouse, a customs warehouse. As I said, goods moving from the EU or from the rest of the world, the duty and VAT is suspended when it comes into the UK warehouse. Goods sold into the UK, duty and VAT paid. Goods sold outside the UK, no duty or VAT due in the UK at all. Here's the IPR with the processing carried out in the UK. So we've got buttons and something else coming from from outside the UK. Import VAT and duty is suspended. Buttons sewn on. That's your process that's being carried out. Again, if they're sold in the UK, that's the point where duty and VAT is paid. If they leave the UK, go outside the UK, then there will be no duty or VAT due in the UK. So the record keeping can be quite tricky for these, but you can set yourselves up to do it. And, as I say, if it saves you a lot of money, it's worth it. It's worth looking into it. So looking in more detail at the situation then where we have a B2B sale of goods from the UK to the EU, then these are the questions that you need to be asking. So if there is an export from the UK, who's responsible for it? Like I said, if it's Ex Works, it will be your customer. If not, then it's you, an export declaration. You need to appoint an agent to do that, do it yourselves. And obviously there's a cost attached to that. Who is the importer of record into the EU? Again, your Incoterms are vital here to work that out. Is there import duties there to be paid in the EU? And is there an opportunity to defer the import VAT? Do you need a fiscal representative in the EU? Do you need to register for VAT with a fiscal representative? Do you need a VAT number, obviously a registration? And do you need an EORI number within the EU? And this is something that obviously we've all got our heads around EORI numbers, and the UK HMRC has issued EORI numbers to most businesses. It's not difficult to get one if you don't have one. You can go online, you can get it very quickly, but you can also get an EORI number in the EU, and you may well need an EORI number in the EU. If you are importing into the EU, you will need an EU EORI. So that's something, again, that we can, we can talk about, we can help you with to get that number and to get set up. There's no requirement.
Sue, sorry,
yes.
can I just jump in only because there was a question in the chat specifically around that EU, whether you need an EORI number in the EU country. Can you just clarify that? Because I think it was Andrew Reed who asked that question. Graham's working on it in the background. Just wanted us to capitalise on that while we're there.
Yes, certainly. So the thing about EORI numbers is when you're in the EU, you only need one EORI number, and that is usually given to you by your home member state, if you like. So UK businesses have got UK EORIs, which are good enough for the EU. They're fine for the EU now, but from the 1st of January, they're no good for the EU anymore. They are only good for the UK. So if you're in the situation where you're going to be importing into the EU, where you're going to be moving goods around in the EU, then your UK EORI isn't good enough, and you will need an EORI number from within the EU. As I say, it's possible to get it. We found that the best or easiest place is the Netherlands to get that number. It's not difficult, and let me know if you need some help with that.
Okay, we may come back to that question later on, but I thought while you're on the topic, I'll just jump in there. And I'm sure Graham's got some stuff to add later, but please do carry on. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So there's no requirement to set up a legal entity in the EU. Now, I say that, but I have a client who actually is having to set up a legal entity because there's no legal requirement for it. But because of the changes in the labelling requirements and the CE marking, which I think you covered earlier in the day, a lot of businesses will need an address within the EU, and often that means that you have to set up a legal entity. So you need to be looking into that to see whether you do need to set up a legal entity, because again, that takes time. We're setting up a Dutch BV for this client, and actually that's not too bad. 2 to 3 weeks is what we've been told. So fingers crossed, we might have that by January. We'll see. Also, the other thing is, do you want to move stock to the EU? So you hold your stock in the UK, but maybe after Brexit, maybe it would be better to hold stock in the EU, because then also it avoids that double dip on the duty that I was talking about. If you bring goods from Asia into the UK and then into the EU to sell, well, why not bring them straight into the EU, hold a stock, sell them from there? You'd need an EORI number for that as well. Okay. Next picture is, again, B2B. We're selling goods, and this is EU businesses who are trading with the UK. So briefly, they have very similar issues. So if a French business is selling to a UK one, so for example, I've got a lot of clients who are selling flowers and plants from the Netherlands, and food items to a supermarket in the UK, and that supermarket in the UK, I won't name them, is saying, look, we don't want to have to deal with the customs implications of this. We just want you to deliver it to our door. And obviously, you've got a contract with a big supermarket. You either comply or you don't deal with them anymore. So the businesses are finding that actually the only way to do that is to register for VAT in the UK. So we're registering a lot of non-UK businesses in the UK. It's not too tricky. You don't need to appoint a fiscal rep or a general rep in the UK. A firm like ours can act as an agent on your behalf to deal with the tax authorities, to submit VAT returns. But you need to do that because if you're importing into the UK, import VAT has to be paid, and import duty as well if there's duty on the goods. And there's some doubt at the moment, I don't know, maybe somebody on the webinar has some good information about this. HMRC previously said that non-EU entities could not have a duty deferment account in the UK, so they weren't allowed to set up a duty deferment account. They would have to pay duty at the point of import or use their freight forwarder or customs agent's duty deferment account. But I understand that that might have been relaxed and that non-UK businesses may be able to have a duty deferment account. If anyone knows anything about that, I'll be very pleased if you stick it in the chat and we can keep everybody up to date on that one. Okay, so I'm moving on to B2C now. So what we were talking about was B2B, where you make sales to another business. This is B2C, UK businesses who are selling goods to customers, private individuals in the EU. So at the moment, you're probably aware, we have what's called the distance selling regime, which means that you're allowed to make sales up to a certain amount in each of the EU member states before you have to register for VAT and account for local VAT on those sales. Bit of a pain, you can end up being registered in a number of EU member states that way. But because we're leaving the EU, we no longer have access to that distance selling regime. So that would no longer apply if you're sending goods to consumers within the EU. And there'll be a new EU VAT regulation for e-commerce as well, applicable in the EU, but that won't apply for goods coming from the UK either. So there's a lot of changes here, all interacting. If you are supplying B2C goods, then you need to be aware of these. But the basic rule is if you're sending goods out of the UK and you export them out of the UK, you have to import them into the EU. Someone's got to pay the import VAT and someone's got to pay the customs duties. Is that you, in which case you need to be registered there? Or is it your customer, in which case you need to tell them they're going to have to pay the duty and they're going to be paying the VAT when those goods arrive at their doorstep? Okay, so is your website accurate? Are your prices accurate? Have you made that clear to your customers that they are going to be liable for those additional costs? And the other way around, let's look at that. So now we're talking about EU businesses who are selling goods B2C into the UK. So the distance selling regime no longer applies if goods are sent to the UK. Those goods will be exported out of France, for example, and imported into the UK. If the supply is below £135, there are new rules from the 1st of January, which mean that overseas suppliers have to register for VAT in the UK in order to pay the UK VAT on those supplies. Again, who is going to pay that? You or your consumer? Is your website accurate, and so on? So quite tricky if you're an EU business and you're currently selling goods B2C into the UK. How am I doing for time? 2:36. Okay, I want to make sure we have enough time for questions. So other VAT issues, triangulation, which we've enjoyed for a number of years now, which simplifies the situation where you're invoicing in a triangle, but the goods are going in a different direction. We no longer have access to that. Or to the call-off stock simplification, which allows you not to have to register in a member state if you hold call-off stock. So anyone who's doing that, you'll have to register for VAT where the stock is held. Installation of goods, it used to be that you didn't have to register if you were installing goods in, say, Germany. Your customer would account for the VAT on that. That's gone. And also, as I said, distance selling rules and B2C e-commerce changing as well. So some quite substantial changes from the 1st of January affecting VAT rather than duty. I'm going to skip past this this slide fairly quickly because I want time for questions. So as I was mentioning, the labelling and packaging and the CE marks, that may mean that you have to register an EU establishment or have an EU establishment. In the UK, CA marking can continue to be used, or the CE marking, sorry, can continue to be used until Jan 22 rather than from Jan 21, but that's not the same in the EU. You have to be ready for that. B2C e-services. So if you're supplying electronic services, as I said, there will be a change here. Sorry. So at the moment, you probably know we've got MOS, the mini one-stop shop, and that's an EU-wide phenomenon. Again, we lose that when we leave the EU. So you will no longer be able to be registered in the UK for MOS and complete declarations for VAT payable in other member states. In fact, you'll have to register in another EU country, or in an EU country, because we're no longer an EU country. So let's say you decide to register in Ireland in order that you can then pay the VAT on those supplies that you're making B2C of e-commerce. And if you are, yes, I'm just checking, 10th of February 2021, you have until the 10th of Feb to register in, for example, Ireland. It doesn't have to be Ireland, but obviously the language isn't such a barrier there, or isn't a barrier there. So you have until the 10th of Feb to register if you make supplies B2C e-services in January. So not a massive, you don't have to do anything right now. In fact, Ireland isn't set up for you to register yet. They haven't changed their website. So they're actually saying you can't register because you're an EU entity. But hopefully they will change that soon and then you can register. I'll skip over that. That's EU businesses trading with the UK. Other VAT issues. If you currently make a VAT refund claim because you're incurring VAT in the EU, that system will change. You can no longer use the VAT refund system for EU companies, because we won't be an EU company. You won't be an EU company anymore. So your last claim will be for the 2020 year and has to be submitted by March the 31st, 2021. And then you need to check the procedure in each country where you're incurring VAT to make sure you don't miss the deadlines for making a claim as a non-EU company. Finally, a short checklist there. I mean, I've covered all these things. You analyze your supply chain pricing, check your partner's customs, logistics and tax reps. Do you need a tax rep? Do you need to be VAT registered? Have you got a customs agent? Basically, you know, do you know exactly what you're going to have to do from the 1st of January? Check the contracts with all the parties that you're involved in. What are the Incoterms? Is one of your customers saying, well, we want you to deliver DDP when you've always done it Ex Works? All those things you need to be dealing with now. You need to make those arrangements and you need to start doing that now, 29 days to go. So there we are. That's the end of my presentation.
Wow.
And I whizzed through that a little bit, Tudor. Sorry, but I wanted to have time for
absolutely
questions.
fine. No, and you're quite right too. Sue,
Yeah.
fantastic as ever. Thank you very much indeed. Really resonated. We had a good presentation from Trading Standards this morning around some of the food business operators. And that came as a bit of a surprise with some of the new, most recent changes to that. And of course, we've got the British Standards Institute on afterwards, so hopefully we'll sort of get into more detail in those areas as well. Really informative. I think there's a lot of things in there which people have questions on. I've seen them pinging in really quickly. What I might propose here is, rather than I read them out, because actually what we found this morning is people are better articulating their question. And of course, it's very nuanced as well, based on their situation. So I'm going to invite people to, by again looking at the participants screen, is to, at the bottom of the participant screen, you'll see a little hand up sign. If you click on that, it'll appear on my screen, and I can invite you to put your question forward. But in the meantime, whilst we're doing that, can I just get some clarity on behalf of Nancy and also Andrew Riedel, who I mentioned earlier, about the EORI numbers? So Nancy really was asking, if I have an EORI number here in the UK, does that cover the whole of the EU? or do I need a separate one for Northern Ireland, which I think Graham may have answered that already. But can you just sort of clarify in a B2B scenario sort of the situation? And Nancy, I'd invite you to sort of pop your hand up as well and bring you online to just make sure I've asked that question correctly. So what's the situation there?
So you will need your UK EORI, you will need your Northern Ireland EORI if you're selling into Northern Ireland. And in some situations, if you're selling DDP into the EU, you would need an EU EORI as well. So your UK EORI will only cover you for UK trade after the 1st of January. So it's important to realise that and think about whether you would need a EU EORI from the 1st of January if you are going to be moving goods into the EU where you're responsible for duties and VAT. You will need an EORI.
Nancy, do you want to just come off mute there and see if that's answered your question?
Hello?
Hi, Nancy.
I'm there. Yes, we import cardboard from Germany. They're our group. They own our company, although we're registered here. And then we export a point of sale product back into Europe. So we just need one. We've got our GB EORI. We know we have to have a Northern Ireland one because Graham's already clarified that for me. But one EU EORI covers the 27 member states. Is that correct?
It does, yes, but not that you can't, a UK one won't cut the mustard from the 1st of January. So, but yes, you can have a Dutch one and that covers you for all of the member states. Yeah.
So is it better to apply to the Netherlands than to Germany then?
I don't know the system for Germany. I only know that the Netherlands is fairly quick and pain-free, as is usually the case with this kind of thing. The Netherlands is a good place to go to. I don't know about Germany, I'm afraid.
Well, I've downloaded about the General Directorate of Customs Master Data Management in Dresden, and they say it's free and only takes a couple of days and you can do it online.
Okay.
So I don't know whether...
Then that sounds easy. You could be our guinea pig there, couldn't you, Nancy?
Nancy, it's interesting because actually it's really useful. We've had some conversations this morning where people have already sort of found solutions to whether that's trying to source a fiscal partner or things like that. You know, fiscal representative has been really, really good. Okay, Graham, you've got your hand up. Do you want to come in on that? Unmute, Graham.
You having problems unmuting?
Let me see if I can do that for you.
I've done it now.
There you go.
Hi, Graham.
My new IT learning point this afternoon was if you click it 6 times, on the 6th time it'll work. I think Sue's clarified it now, and I don't profess to be a VAT expert, and indeed I've made 1 or 2 referrals to Sue in the recent few days. The point that I just wanted to clarify, which I think you may have just done now, but I was busy trying to type, so I may have missed it, is that because the 27 countries are all one market, essentially what should happen is you need to register for an EU EORI in the country that you're going to be first sending to, simply because logistically you're going to need to have an EORI in order for that to happen. And then that EU EORI that you've registered in whichever one of the 27 countries you've registered it will apply for you in all of the other EU countries as well. You might like to comment on that further, Sue, but that's my understanding of the situation.
Oh, that's really helpful.
Where do we get hold of an NI EORI? Where do we get that from?
So that's the one where you have to follow the link to the Northern Ireland trader support service, and fill out the form there. and they will then provide you with an NI EORI number.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Vizark have been in touch. They haven't got a mic, so they can't answer the question themselves. But what happens to VAT on B2B e-services? Will the reverse charge arrangement continue? And do we keep our invoicing the same with 0% VAT? Do we continue to send the EC sales list return? Number of questions there.
Yep. So the short answer is yes. Here's something that doesn't change. Whoopee! Your supply will still be outside the scope of UK VAT. So you won't charge any UK VAT. You quote your EU customers registration number. And in fact, the requirement to quote their VAT number might well go as well, but we don't know that for sure yet. And they will account for the VAT under the reverse charge system. So yeah, good news on that. Nothing changes.
T. Keevil, you got a question there which might warrant a little bit more explanation. Can I invite you to unmute and ask the question verbally? T. Keevil, are you there? Not quite sure what you appear as. Okay, I'll attempt to ask the question. Hello? No. Okay, what are the options for triangulation if, say, UK sells to Italy, but goods actually go from Germany to Italy? Do we have to register for VAT in Germany and Italy? How would that work?
So yes, so at the moment, triangulation means that you wouldn't have to register in either Germany or Italy. But as I say, we won't have access to the triangulation rules anymore. So what that will mean is that if you are making a sale to an Italian customer, but the goods leave Germany to go to Italy, then you would need to register for VAT in Germany, because that's where the goods are, where movement of them begins. So you'd be liable to register for VAT in Germany, and then you would treat it as an intra-community supply from your German VAT number to your Italian customer. The Italian customer would account for acquisition VAT, just like we do now. So you don't have to register in Italy, but you should register in Germany.
Brilliant, thank you. Julie Brooks, you've been with us all day. I know you've got a particular challenge because you're obviously from the US-based company. Do you want to ask your question there around the, we've got a couple of questions in the chat.
Any questions? I'm sure like everyone.
This is the day for them, Julie. Please do crack on.
Well, thank you for organising. It's been so useful so far. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So what we do, Sue, is we send CE marked electronic devices into the EU, where they collect clinical trial data from patients and sites around the EU. We don't sell them, and the devices are returned back to our US company at the end of the trial. The devices are CE marked. Does that mean I have to get in touch with the manufacturer and make sure they have an authorised EU representative?
Yes, I think it probably does. I mean, I must say that this isn't my area of expertise, the CE marking, and I'd barely heard of it before all this happened with Brexit. But with the experience that I have with one of my clients, they are sending these sorts of electronic devices into the EU, and yes, it needs to have an EU a label on it with an EU name and address, because they're going into the EU. That's my understanding of it. So either the manufacturer or yourselves need an EU representative who can handle that for you. But I would say get in touch with the manufacturer first.
We have Graham McKay of the British Standards Institute following this session, so it might be that he can
ask him. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, lovely.
Julie had other questions there. Please do take advantage of Sue's time here.
You. I've got to nip out to do a school run in a minute as well, so I'm so glad you came to me. Thank you. But I will be logging back on afterwards. We don't actually own this equipment that we ship into Europe. We do purchase it and we do warehouse it, but at the point that it gets installed with the clinical trial data and then shipped out, it becomes the sponsor's equipment. So I'm a bit confused as to when we ship it out into the EU, we're shown as the shipper on the invoice, and obviously the clinical trial partner in the EU is the receiver. So do we have to get the EORI number because we're the shipper, or because the equipment is owned by a pharmaceutical company at that point, do they have to have the EU EORI number?
Wow. Okay, this is a tricky one, to be honest with you, because again, this equipment is going out temporarily, is it, into the EU?
It is, but we don't declare it as a temporary export because it can be out
Okay.
there for 3, 5, 7 years,
Okay, fine.
depending on how extensive the trial is.
So it would have to be imported then into the EU.
Yes.
But you don't own it at the point of, but who would do the import declaration into the EU then?
That would be, we send everything DDP by small parcel courier, so UPS or DHL. So everything gets charged to our account, and then we charge it back onto the customer.
Okay. So if you're selling DDP, then you need to be extremely careful, because you'll be the one that's liable to do the import into the EU and to declare any duty and VAT. So I would say, on the face of it, you would need a VAT registration there. But that's quite complex what you're saying, and I don't hold me to that. I think you need to break it down and look at it, and probably get some help as to whether you are liable to register somewhere in the EU.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Good luck with that.
Julie, has that answered your questions before you have to dash for the school run?
I'm going to have to dash for the school run, but I did make note of Sue's contact details, so she may well be getting a contact from me.
Is that going to be okay, Sue?
Please do. Yeah, of course. I
Thank
put
you
my
so much.
telephone number and my email address there so that people could contact me, of course.
Thank you so
Fantastic.
much. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Pleasure.
Good. Thank you, Julie. Lee Walker, you've got your hand up there. Can I invite you to come forward and ask a question?
Yes, hello. Yeah, we currently do repairs for customers in the EU. Do we need a temporary import license? And how does the VAT and customs work on parts fitted to that repair?
I can't answer that. I'm sorry, that's outside my area. Graham, are you aware of how that would work?
Well, there are regulations which are called inward processing and outward processing regulations, which are used for that sort of situation. It does depend how long the goods are in the UK. It also depends how many times you do it in a year. It needs to be more regularized in terms of an application if you do it more than 3 times in a year. The best thing we can do is offline, over the phone, Zoom, or however works best for you, have a conversation where we can really get right into the under the skin, if you like, of the process that you're operating. Otherwise, I'm in danger of giving you, a slightly skewed answer that may not be quite right.
Yeah.
But that would be my aim. The contact details were in the chat earlier. I can do it again just to make sure you've got them. I've already received a few emails today as a result of putting contact details in, and I'm happy to do that again. And my brief from the Kent and Medway Growth Hub is to just be as helpful as I can, really, I suppose.
In these difficult circumstances, yeah, that's the problem with these questions. You have to go into it in quite some detail, but so do get in touch with Graham or me if you want to do that.
I noticed Tudor's just put my email address in the chat again.
Posted in there. So I'm going to go to Leslie's iPad. Leslie, you've got a question about supply videos to clients. Do you want to come off mute and just ask the question, Leslie?
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Oh, great. Yeah, I hope it isn't a dumb question, but I'm just not sure where to
such
start.
thing, honestly.
I can't find anything relating to our type of business on the government websites, supplying digital products digitally.
Right. Okay, so you're supplying, I can see your question, you supply videos to clients in the EU by digital download. Okay, so you're, is that B2C or B2B, Leslie?
B2B.
So, okay, then you should be, you won't be covered by MOS then, because you're not supplying to consumers, but you should be 0 rating effectively your supply to those clients in the EU. There'll be no VAT, but you should quote their VAT number on your invoice. And that's what you've been doing, or should be what you've been doing, and that will continue.
So no additional
registration or documentation or anything?
It shouldn't be, no, because you're not moving any goods, so
Yeah.
you know, you're not having to hit borders and things. You're supplying over the internet, aren't you, or by digital means.
Okay, thank you.
So would that be different though if it was B2C though? Is that right?
Yes, if it's B2C, then you're back into MOS territory, mini one-stop shop, and you would have to be registered. At the moment, you register for UK MOS and you pay VAT on sales that you make around the EU. But as I said before, you need to register somewhere else. Probably Ireland is best, and then you would continue to pay VAT to the Irish authorities, and they would then pass it around to the other EU member states.
There you go. So bear that in mind, Leslie. It's B2C and B2B they're very different situations.
Yes.
That's great. Thank you very much. Andrew Riedel, of well known to me, Andrew. We live in the same village.
Okay.
Andrew, you have a question for us around the EU registration or EORI numbers. Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, Tudor. Yeah, we have a daughter company in the Netherlands, and they have an NL EORI number. And I'm wondering, can I use that number if I want to sell, for example, on a DDP basis to a customer in Germany, or do I need to register for a new EU EORI number?
So where are the goods at the point of sale? Where are they physically, in the UK or
they're in the UK.
So you're moving them from the UK to Germany, and who's responsible for importing into Germany? Is it you or is it the German?
Well, if
customer?
I wanted to sell on a DDP basis, I understand that it would be me.
Okay, yeah. So if you sell on a DDP basis, it's you that's importing into Germany. No, you can't use the EORI number of your Dutch entity. I'm afraid not. They're not transferable. So you would need your own, and you probably need to register for VAT as well.
So is it correct that you have one EU EORI number for any country in Europe?
In the EU, yes, that's right. So one number. I think Graham was just saying, so you get your number according to the country where you send the goods to initially, but you can use that number around the whole of the EU.
Okay, thank you.
I think the point there, Andrew, is that there's your company in the UK involved in a sale, and there's a subsidiary company in the Netherlands. So if the subsidiary company owns their Netherlands number, your UK company can't use it because it's a separate business.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Adrian, question about chemicals to Spain. You've been with us most of the day. Hopefully it's been informative.
Yeah, thank you. So exporting non-hazardous bulk liquid IBCs chemicals from manufactured in the UK to Spain. At the moment, I export them DDP. You said earlier, if I do it ex works, what will my customer have to do to be able to import them, and how do I demonstrate? Because I currently export it zero VATed. I don't put the VAT on the invoice, and he deals with that at his end. I've got here, obviously, I have his VAT number. Does that carry on in the same way?
Yes, sort of. So what would happen is X works, he comes to your premises to pick up the goods. You can still zero rate that sale for VAT purposes because the goods are going to leave the UK, but you must have evidence to support the fact that the goods have left the UK. So you need a copy of that export declaration that he's going to make to the UK tax authorities to show that the goods that you sold to him have left the UK. Otherwise, you'll be liable to UK VAT on them. So,
and is that something that the Spanish or the Germans or the Dutch or the other European countries are they going through the same exercises we're doing here today? As to what documents they'll need?
Sorry, in terms of what documents will be needed?
Yeah, so you said just then that he'll have to be able to demonstrate, well, he'll have to account for, as the importer, the tax arrangements and such like. So is that something they already do? For example, is it similar if it was outside the EU? Is it the same documentation process, or is it something new for them as well?
No, it is the same documentation process as is currently used for movements between the UK and the rest of the world.
Okay.
So if they're already buying things from outside the EU, they will know what needs to be done. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Adrian, thank you very much, Steve. Just looking at the clock, time has run away with us as ever, but then it's been incredibly useful. There's one, Nancy's come back to us with another question here, so we'll just try and get that in, which is, so we use Romot tunnel. Does this mean we have to have a French EORI?
We use, what did you say? Robot tunnel?
No, Romot tunnel. Graham, do you know what that is? Romot tunnel?
I think it's one of the under the Alps tunnels. I think maybe Nancy might like to clarify that, but I think the point is every time I've checked with the various websites, I keep coming back with the same answer, which is whichever country you first make a sale to in Europe, that's the country that you're going to need to get the EORI number from. Now, I understand that it may be you don't exactly know which country gets the first sale, so you probably need to just plump for one of them, one of the ones that it's likely to be, and then ship those goods. But that EORI number will then apply in terms of all 27. Now, I'm giving you information that I'm receiving, so I stress again, I'm not a VAT or customs expert, but my understanding is we've got 3 market situations. We've got a 27 country EU market, we've got a GB market, and we've got a kind of a hybrid strange situation, if I can say that about the Irish without meaning to sound disparaging, but we have got a hybrid situation, which is the NI market. And because of the way that the NI is being needed to be treated, it's going to need, I understand, a separate EORI number. So basically, 3 EORI numbers potentially is what's needed for the markets that we're discussing.
Can I, Nancy? You got your hand up. Did that answer the question, or does it need more clarity there?
Yes, the ROMOT is the Channel Tunnel.
Oh, the Channel Tunnel. Okay.
Yeah, so that's our first port of call is France. I didn't understand you meant the first country of sale, because we usually sell to Germany and France just.
And what Incoterms do you use?
DDP.
Oh, you'll have to be registered. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to. You will have to be registered because you're making a sale DDP. So someone's got to make the declaration, the import declaration. It doesn't mean that everything has to be imported into France, because physically most stuff will go through France from the UK. You don't have to import it into France. You can put it into transit and then import it into Germany. But you know, you need to work out whether you need a French VAT registration or a German VAT registration, and the EORI will follow.
EORI, I dream about it.
I know. I mean, it was never. We never talked about EORIs, did we? And now it's like everything's EORI this and EORI that.
It'll be a verb before you know it. It'll be a verb in the dictionary next year. I can guarantee you. Graham, hold on a second, Graham. One moment, because Graham McKay's on the call with us here. He's due on at 3. So Graham, I hope you can hear us, and please do bear with us, because we're obviously getting through some very important stuff here. So hopefully be okay. Is that all right with you, Graham?
Yeah, it is. It's fine. Yeah, I do have
That's
a bit of a hard stop later on, but I should be okay at the moment.
That's okay. You need to do your homework on CE marks. That's been a question that's cropped up quite a bit. Hopefully, we'll have some answers there. But Graham Carr, just come back to you. You're going to add something there.
Yeah, just I'll make it very brief. I hadn't realised it was already 3:05. Just as a kind of a general rule, the main thing to keep in mind is that the VAT will always follow the goods. So wherever the goods are moving from and to, that's what creates the requirement for VAT. So if you're a UK company buying goods in any one of the other countries in Europe and then selling them to another country in Europe, is the country that the goods are actually traveling from, which creates the VAT situation.
Fantastic. I'm going to have one more question. So Ian, you've posted a complex question. I'm not going to read it out. So Ian, would you like to just come off mute and ask your question? There's a lot of hand movements going on over there. I can see. So there you go. You're on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yep.
We manufacture process valve automation equipment in the UK. A large quantity of our business goes into the EU, mainly the Netherlands, Italy, and Spain. And one of the, we don't want our customers to have the implications of paying the VAT on importation into the EU. So one of the considerations is to open a French subsidiary office, a legal entity in France with its own VAT registration and EORI registration. Do we physically have to handle the goods in France? Can we send the goods directly to the Netherlands, Italy, or Spain, and our French subsidiary just handle the VAT implications and any necessary duty or tariffs, or can we avoid handling the product in France? Because obviously then that means double handling and obviously double the costs.
Yeah, I absolutely get that, but no, I'm afraid you can't. So if you are, if you're sending goods to customers in those countries, and the way that that I see it, and bear in mind that this could change, but if you, wherever you get your VAT registration, that's where you will import the goods into the EU. So if you've got a VAT registration in France, you will import the goods into France, you know, when you move them there, which means that you will have to make the declaration in France, pay the VAT on your French VAT return,
so we will
and
have to
stop
handle the
them
product
there.
in France.
Yeah.
And
So
then we can ship into the rest of the EU, and they then don't have the implications of having to pay VAT on importation into the Netherlands, Italy, or Spain.
That's right, because if you enter them into the EU in France, they're already cleared within the EU, and you can then move them freely around the EU, and your customer would then account for the acquisition VAT on a movement from, say, France to the Netherlands, or, you know, France to Italy. But you don't have to register in France. You could use the transit procedure in France, and then all the goods go to the Netherlands, you register there and you deal with the import there, and then you send them out from the Netherlands. But probably, practically speaking, from a practical point of view, it's probably best to have them all go to France, as it's the first country they go through, clear them there, and then move them on to your customers from your French VAT registration. So you'll have this sort of odd situation where your UK VAT registration will kind of sell to your French VAT registration, sell on paper, you know, on the VAT return, and then your French VAT return and registration will sell to your Dutch customer, if you like. And it's like you've created two sales out of what was one. But from a VAT point of view, that's what needs to happen.
Unfortunately, it's just not one customer. We've got a larger number of customers in the Netherlands, Italy, and Spain. So we think that's probably the best way to minimise the impact for the customers in still continuing to purchase from us. So.
Yeah, so that's a similar situation to a client of mine, and they've decided to set up a subsidiary within the EU. You don't have to have a subsidiary, you can just register your own country for French VAT. But, you know, taking everything into account, you need to look at corporation tax rates and how easy it is to set up, whether you need a fiscal representative, which I think you do in France. You know, all of that, you might say, well, actually, it's easier for us to set up a subsidiary and, you know, just go for it rather than.
I've already got the part of my family lives in northern France, so that's why I'm choosing France.
And that makes total sense.
I've got a trusted workforce.
Yeah, because France is France is difficult for registering and you know setting up in. The Netherlands and Belgium are easier, but if you've got people there, then you're already streets ahead.
We had a representative. We had a representative from the Dutch Chambers of Commerce on our call this morning, and he was more than happy to try and help out where he could. Okay, I'm going to bring things to a close there. We've run over, but I think it was time very well spent. Sue, I didn't underplay you when I said that you're an expert in these matters. You haven't disappointed. You've certainly had to sing for your supper this afternoon.
Thanks, Tudor.
Thank you so much indeed. Graham, thank you for your input as well as ever. I'm going to hand over to you straight away. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're very delighted that we've got Graham McKay from the British Standards Institute here, who's going to sort of try and share with us some of the compliance, certification and standards issues that we can expect in less than 29 days. Graham, the floor is yours.
It's quite scary, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about market access for the UK and what the UK regulations will look like for products being placed on the market sort of post-Brexit. I can also touch on some of the sort of CE marking, the reciprocal stuff for people who are exporting to the EU as well. If you said you had some questions about that, Tudor.
Indeed, yes, thank you.
Okay, so hopefully this works. So what I'm going to talk about, Brexit, the impact on the UK product regulations, introduction to the new mark of compliance in the corner there, the UK CA mark, which comes into force on the 1st of January next year. Many people will be used to dealing with notified bodies for some part of their compliance, and they might have to start getting used to approved bodies. Actions that people might need to take in order to maintain their UK or CE market access. A bit of an update on Northern Ireland, which is a special case and is quite an unusual case. And obviously I'll take questions, I'm guessing, at the end, or I don't really mind that much. Okay, a little bit about me. So I am a chartered engineer. I'm a graduate in electronic engineering. I've spent about 30 years working in the product safety and compliance industry with many companies. I'm currently the global head of gas and electrical products at the British Standards Institution. I've been with BSI for about 10 years, and I spend a lot of time, more time than I should actually, worrying about whether I'll be able to fit into that suit when I get out of lockdown.
You and me both, don't worry. You're not alone there, Graham, don't worry.
Working within sort of 20 feet of the fridge for 9 months is
yes.
not a good look. Okay, so let's just touch base on Brexit. Most people who are in the product supplying arena realise that CE marking has been the general mark of compliance in the UK probably since about 1992. We did leave the EU on the 31st of January 2020, and it's amazing how many people I speak to don't realise we've actually left. They think we leave at the end of the year. We left at the end of January. We're currently in a transition period that ends at the end of the year, and this presentation is really about what happens next. What do people have to do after that? I mean, it's say in like less than 4 weeks' time, which is quite a scary thought. So there's the timeline. We did leave the EU on the end of January. In the transition period that we're in at the moment, CE marking continues to apply to everything that's placed on the UK market, and to all intents and purposes, the UK continues to act as if it was a member state, except it doesn't have quite the same veto powers and regulatory powers. From the 1st of January, then, we have a choice. So you can choose to use the new UK CA mark if you wish, or for most products, the CE mark can still be used and for a further year. And that's purely a unilateral, that's not some transition period, that's purely a unilateral position that the UK government adopted to try and ensure that businesses didn't suffer too much disruption by a change. And it hasn't been reciprocated by the EU. The EU don't accept UK certificates or things like that. It's simply a UK position to ensure supply chains had enough time to respond to this significant change. For some devices, medical devices, for example, it's extended a little bit further. I think it's June 2023 for medical devices, but for most products, it's that extra year. So there's the mark, the UK CA mark. It stands for UK Conformity Assessed. It can be affixed to products from the 1st of January 2021, and for most products, it must be affixed from 1st January 2022. Anyone who's used to the process of CE marking it shouldn't come as a great shock because it operates in exactly the same manner. In essence, we've taken all of the good bits of CE marking and just brought them into UK law with a new mark. And I do have to raise this, it could still be affected by ongoing negotiations, but I'm reliably informed just this week that it's very, very unlikely to be. The most likely outcome of any ongoing negotiations is some sort of mutual recognition agreement, so that European notified bodies and UK approved bodies will be seen on the same level, and we can mutually accept each other's test reports. That's probably about the only likely outcome now that could change. Excuse me. So anyone who knows what a CE mark is, the CE mark is a visible declaration from the person who's taking responsibility for placing a product on the market, that the product complies with all relevant European regulations. And in fact, an awful lot of people don't quite understand that. And the UK CA mark is exactly the same thing, except it's declaring compliance with the relevant UK regulations. So it's the same process, same principle. You affix the mark when you, as the person taking responsibility for the product, are comfortable that it complies with all relevant regulations. So, as an example, under the CE marking world, there's about 23 different regulations that could potentially apply. And it's not uncommon for 2, 3, 4, even 5 of these regulations to apply to a single product. So PPE directive obviously applies to personal protective equipment. Construction products regulations apply to a whole manner of construction products, from steel girders through to gas pipes used in households. Low voltage directive applies to electrical equipment, and so on. There's a whole raft of them. Recreational craft directive, there's a whole raft of them requiring CE mark as a declaration of conformity. And what the UK did, they created a piece of legislation which was known in the press as the Great Repeal Act. It has the rather less snazzy title of the Product Safety and Metrology blah blah EU exit regulations. And what it actually did was it effectively transferred every one of those European regulations into UK law with the content that it had in 2019. So in essence, we are now, the EU low voltage directive, for example, now has a new name as a UK electrical safety regulation. So to all intents and purposes, as of today and as of the 1st of January next year, the UK and the EU regulations are identical from a technical perspective. So there's nothing to fear there. There are no new technical regulations being introduced that are different to what people have had to deal with in the past. So what has changed? Firstly, obviously the mark itself. So in the European world, the CE mark is used to declare conformity. In the UK world, it will be the UK CA mark. For the EU, the regulations require an EU declaration of conformity, which basically lists out the various European regulations that you are declaring conformity with by the affixing of your CE mark. And in the UK, not surprisingly, it's a similar thing, but it's called a UK declaration of conformity, and you'll have to declare conformity with the UK laws, which of course will be different to the EU ones in name only at the moment. And probably the most significant change that will affect people is many EU regulations require the use of a special body called a notified body to perform sort of testing, factory inspections, market surveillance, that type of activity, generally as part of the attestation process to ensure that products are in conformity. And in the UK, they've got the same thing, but now it's called an approved body. So it's the same process, same bodies to some extent, but it's got a different name. And of course, it has to be a UK body. Therein lies the big risk. If you, for example, import a product that's been evaluated by a German notified body, come the 1st of January 2022, well, that won't meet the legal requirements here, and you wouldn't be able to sell that product. Excuse me. So the format of the mark. The mark exists on its own, just the straight UK CA mark like that, for the regulations where no approved body is required. So typically that is most electrical equipment, ROSH, which is hazardous substances, electromagnetic compatibility, toys, some types of machinery, and some very, very low risk pressure equipment, and some construction products. And that is effectively a self-declaration mark, which is exactly the same as it applies to CE marking. The other format is with a 4-digit number following it, and that is for the regulations where there is an approved body required. So typically that will be gas appliances, the vast majority of construction products, radio equipment, dangerous machines, the vast majority of pressure equipment. And what you're putting there is the number of the UK approved body alongside your UK CA mark. So 0086 is the number for BSI UK. And that shows that was the body that was involved in the attestation of this product. And of course, the markings can be combined. It's perfectly permissible that a product might meet the CE marking European regulations and also the UK regulations. I suspect we'll see a lot of this going forward. And anyone who's ever looked at a laptop charger will see that there's a whole raft of compliance marks all over them. So it's quite possible for a single product to meet the regulatory requirements for many, many different countries around the world. And that's quite common. So in this case, the product would have the CE mark and the UK CA mark along with its relative numbers. So 2797 is BSI's Netherlands notified body number, which is obviously still in the EU and still involved in CE marking, and 0086 is our UK number. So in essence, I guess a lot of bodies will be offering the same service from both its European and its UK operations. So one of the issues about, while there is only a year to go, there is an issue about capacity here, and all UK notified bodies will automatically become approved bodies on the 1st of January to support the UK CA mark. So effectively, we will cease to be a notified body in BSI UK, and we'll be automatically become an approved body. But there's a huge capacity. So my particular specialist subject is gas appliances, but and as it stands today, there are 58 EU notified bodies spread out around the 28 member states of the EU. There are just 3 UK ones. So when you think about it, in the next year, the customers of 55 notified bodies are going to have to find somewhere else to get their product certified if the UK market is important to them. And that's going to bring in some real challenges in actually getting all this stuff done, which is, I think, why the government were very pragmatic to give this extra 1-year extension to accept CE marking. And if you look at a bigger market, construction products, it's an even starker picture. There are 709 EU notified bodies and just 40, I think, in the UK. So there's a huge capacity issue there in construction products. Now, maybe construction products don't travel quite as much as other things. I don't know yet, but it'd be interesting to see how the UK infrastructure copes with all this. Other point I want to touch on is divergence. I did say, obviously, the 1st of January 2021, the requirements will be identical from a technical perspective. I think it's extremely unlikely to stay like that. Obviously, the UK and the EU are now free to amend their own regulations. They don't have to be harmonised anymore. If the UK wants to enact a new piece of fridge legislation, they can. And then importers to the UK or people who wish to place products on the market in the UK will have to comply with that regulation. So I think we will start to see some divergence. However, having said that, when you look at the detail of it, while we do have the regulations we have are generally provide very broad frameworks for compliance. They don't usually include too much detail, because actually including too much detail in regulation makes it very hard to amend and keep it up to date. So typically most of the rules that we apply to our products are actually in standards, not in regulations. And certainly the UK is not intending to leave SEN and SENELEC, which are the European standards bodies. So the reality is, we are committed to continuing to use European standards for most of the things that we make and we sell. So in my view, I think divergence is likely to be quite small, certainly in the short term. I'm not seeing any great political will to rewrite the standards for televisions or fridges, just for the sake of it. But we are seeing some change, and there's some change as applied already. So a good example, the EU energy label. Now that's an incredible piece of European regulation that required the manufacturers of a vast majority of white goods and such like to declare the energy performance of their products. And that single-handedly, by having to have that label on the front of your product in a showroom, has made an enormous difference to our carbon emissions over the last 10, 15 years. The development that's gone into things like fridges and dishwashers to get better energy ratings is quite astonishing. And the UK has already enacted legislation to change that label from the 1st of January 2021. So all manufacturers will have to use the new label, which sadly is the same thing, except it's just got the European flag replaced for British flag, which from where I sit doesn't seem to be a great use of parliamentary time, but that's just me. But that is now a regulation, and anyone putting dishwashers and washing machines, water heaters, that type of product onto the market 2021 needs to affix the new UK energy label from the 1st January 2021. So talk about Northern Ireland. So we have several pieces of legislation that affect Northern Ireland. The Northern Ireland Protocol, the Anglo-Irish Agreement. Obviously, everybody understands the politics make the introduction of a hard border on the island of Ireland unacceptable to most people. And manufacturers within Northern Ireland are required by these treaties to have unfettered trade access with the Republic of Ireland and with the rest of the UK, which gives us quite a unique situation and a very, very difficult political problem. Obviously, the Republic of Ireland is in the CE marking, in the Eurozone. Great Britain is in the UKCA UK region. So there's quite a big challenge here. The solution, as it is effectively the regulations in Northern Ireland will remain aligned with the EU. So EU regulations will take precedence in Northern Ireland, and CE marking will be the way of demonstrating compliance within the territory of Northern Ireland. That obviously allows free trade between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. In order to allow free trade between Northern Ireland and Great Britain, effectively, they've said, okay, if you're a Northern Ireland manufacturer, you can supply CE marked products into Great Britain. So it's a real strange compromise that sort of undermines the whole point of having your own UKCA mark, but it's also a politically astute solution. So there's so effectively in Northern Ireland, effectively the mark of choice is the CE mark from an EU notified body. You can place a product on the market in Northern Ireland with the CE mark evaluated by a UK notified body, in which case you use this special mark called the CE UK NI mark. And what that says is you're meeting the EU regulations, but it's been evaluated by a UK notified body, and that has no legal bearing in the EU. So a product bearing the CE UK NI mark can be used in Northern Ireland, but not in the Republic of Ireland. It's horribly complicated, but it's actually, in essence, most people in Northern Ireland would be well advised just to stick with CE marking, and they bear everything there. That also means they would continue to use an EU notified body. So for our Northern Ireland clients, we're advising that they carry on working with our Netherlands notified body because that gives them the best market access. So, a summary. We did leave the EU. CE marking remains a requirement in the UK until the 1st of January. It will remain acceptable until the 1st January 2022 for the vast majority of products. The UKCA mark has been developed to replace the CE mark in the UK. Technical requirements are the same, but may well diverge over time. As with CE marking, it can be self-declared for some regulations. If you use a non-UK notified body to support your CE mark, then you will lose access to the UK market within the next year. All UK notified bodies will automatically become approved bodies for UKCA, and they don't need to do anything, and the customers of those approved bodies don't need to do anything. Obviously, we can help if you have any issues of any EU notified body, BSI is probably in a position to help you comply with the new UKCA requirements. And because of the supply chain issues and the capacity issues, time to act may be shorter than people realise. There's an awful lot of work to be done for an awful lot of companies. And I'll just finish on this one thing. We do get this asked a lot. People of a certain age certainly understand what the BSI kite mark is. And I just let people know it is a privately owned mark operated by BSI. It's the world's oldest mark of trust. And it's not aligned with any regulatory framework. So it continues to mean what it's always meant, which is compliance with a specification assessed independently by BSI. So it isn't impacted by Brexit, and it continues to have the same meaning that it's always had in the UK or in Ireland or in the Middle East, wherever it's popular. And that's me. And we have created a landing page where you can ask for more information on our website. The link's here. I think you'll probably get the slides, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah, and we've posted that link into the chat area. But for now, Graham, that's fantastic. Thank you very, very much indeed. Now, you said you had a hard stop time. Is that 3:45?
No, it's about 4 o'clock.
Okay, that's good. All right, that's great, because it's been really useful to invite people to sort of just come off mute and actually ask questions themselves, because quite often the sort of specific subtleties and nuances make a big difference here. Fascinating insight there, and again, probably something we were aware of, but not the detail as ever. So, Adrian, you posted some questions earlier. I'd like you to invite you to come forward and come off mute and ask the questions you had, if they haven't been answered already, of course.
Yeah, thanks. In fact, many of the questions have actually been answered as the presentation progressed. I was firing them off, but the one that I've got to is with these labelling C UKCA. Can I put C UKCA on my existing labels based on my CE certification that I've already got?
So the answer to that depends on who you got your CE certification from.
Self-certified.
Okay, well, if you're self-certified, you don't actually have any certification, do you? So you are self-declaring compliance with the CE regulations, and if you're comfortable doing that, there's no reason why you wouldn't self-declare compliance with the UK regulations. You should obviously make sure you stay abreast of what they actually require, because they can diverge over time, but I don't see any reason why you shouldn't do that.
Adrian, did you get that?
Yeah, so I've got my QMS manager who I've worked with for the last 25 years. Sorry? So I've got my QMS manager to do the assessment. So I haven't just printed one off myself.
Oh no, I didn't suggest you that. No, but it's entirely in your responsibility to make that declaration. If you're comfortable with doing it for a CE mark, there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't be comfortable to do it for a UKCA mark.
Yeah.
That's great, Adrian. Thank you. I think the signal's breaking up a little bit from your side there. We're going to go across to R. Higgs. Got a question? You got your hand up?
And then
good afternoon.
My insurance company.
Sorry, Adrian, if you can hear me, we're just going to put you on mute for a moment, because we've lost the signal on you. It keeps breaking up. So give us a moment, just let that line clear. We're going to go to another question. I'll come back to you, Adrian, just for your follow-up there. So bear with me. R. Higgs.
Good afternoon. I've got a quick question. We're a company that manufactures conveyors, and we do self-certification currently for EU. My question to the gentleman from BSI is that when this finishes at the end of 2021, do we then have to officially use the UKCA, or can we continue to use the CE mark for exports into Europe?
Okay, so there's two questions there. So if you're, again, very similar to the last gentleman, if you're currently self-declaring compliance with the machinery regulations, which you sounds like you are, you can continue to do so and affix the CE mark for export of your products. But you need to be affixing the UKCA mark in the UK market.
Yes. Okay, but if we're going forward after the end of 2021, are we still able to self-certificate for the CE mark for exports?
Yeah, the EU regulations haven't changed at all.
Okay, so that's fine.
They remain exactly as they are. You will now, of course, become an exporter into the EU.
Yes.
And that means the person receiving your goods is an importer, and they will have new legal responsibilities that they haven't currently got.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Something
yes.
that people aren't necessarily thinking about, making sure they've got that covered. They will have a whole new raft of responsibilities that they don't currently have today.
Yeah, all right. That's lovely. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Adrian, I'm going to come back to you to see if the signal quality's improved a bit. You had a follow-up question.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I'll keep the camera off to see if I can help with
Of course.
that.
Thank you.
So with my insurance, so someone like Towergate, you know, they're obviously an international operator. What effect have the changes from CE to UKCA? What do I need to tell my insurance company regarding any liabilities or such like?
Pass. I'm not an expert on insurance, I'm afraid. I can't imagine there's very much you should tell them, because I can't see any reason why your liability is increased by the change in regulatory framework. But if you've got any doubts, all I can say is you perhaps should ring them and ask them.
Okay.
It's really not my thing.
That's fine. I think it's because you're using self-certification. I think there's there's probably an element of responsibility placed on you anyway. So yeah, it doesn't sound like the changes would have been too great there, Adrian. But again, if you get stuck and can't find an answer, come back to us here, and we'll do what we can. Okay. There's a question here from Melanie around will we need certificates of origin and how do we get them? This is, I guess, in relation to exporting to the EU or to Northern Ireland. Melanie, are you on the call there?
Hi, yes, sorry.
Hi, Melanie.
Yeah, hi. We export to France. It's manufactured parts, it's B2B. And I see on some documentation there's a requirement for certificates of origin. Is that going to be necessary? How do we get them? You know, who actually certifies?
Well, I can answer one of the questions, which the Chamber provides certificates of origin. So we do that as a service. We provide that as an agent of HMRC. In terms of whether we need it now, Graham McKay, I'm not sure whether you know the answer to this question. Do you?
No, I'm afraid not. This is not. Again, it would depend on what product type.
I've got another Graham on the line here. Graham's our import-export advisor. Graham, I suspect this is to do with whether we have a preferential trade agreement in place.
It is, because the type of certificate of origin you use is dependent upon whether there's a preference agreement or not. So unfortunately, for the time being, that's one of those that we don't know the answer to yet. We know that we don't know it, and we know that we're waiting to get the answer. The chances are you will need a certificate of origin, but we don't exactly know what form it's going to take yet. But the Chamber will, the British Chambers of Commerce have got contingency plans, as I understand it, with a variety of different forms in case this happens or in case that happens. And so my understanding, Tudor might want to correct me, but my understanding is that the Chamber office in Ashford and up in Medway will have the correct forms at the time ready to go when we know what is going to happen.
Absolutely. Thank you, Graham. Yeah, just for clarity, obviously the certificates of origin do exactly what they say. You know, an authorized body such as the Chamber verifies that a product originates from a particular country, and then obviously when it arrives in the destination country, because there is a trade agreement in place between those two parties, it then means that various discounts and sort of reductions in tariffs apply. Because we have no trade deal at all at the moment with the EU, in theory, there's no requirement for a certificate of origin at this stage. That's not to say that won't change very quickly. And obviously, there is just a practical problem of trying to print millions of documents in a very short space of time. But we do have stockpiles as a Chamber, and obviously for now I would say you probably won't require it at the moment, but if it does come to pass and you hear details of a trade deal, then you'll need to let us know. Certainly, if you're expecting exporting to other parts of the world and not just the EU 27 member states, then you probably need a CFO, in which case we can help you with that. Does that answer your question, Melanie?
Yes, thanks. It means I don't have to worry just yet.
No, you're fine. You're in good hands. Okay.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Julie Brooks, you had a question there. Julie, you're back.
I am, yes, thank you. Yeah, I just wonder, just out of curiosity, really, what will happen to EC certs of origin after Brexit? Will they just be superseded by a GB cert of origin or something?
Yes, that's exactly the sort of printing scenario, rather like the energy performance. United Kingdom, yeah, rather like the energy performance label. There's the change of flag, but we've got a stockpile, so hopefully it'll be a seamless transition from one to the other.
Fingers crossed. Okay.
Fingers crossed. Excellent. Ellen, you got a question there as well.
Yeah, hello. It might be a really stupid question actually, but for certificates of origin that we receive from our suppliers, we're looking at things like inward processing and all those sorts of things that it might be relevant for. Would it be okay for it to say the country of, well, that it originates from the EU, or would it have to state the specific country?
So this is an import question, isn't it, really? So it's coming to you saying it's product. Graham, any thoughts on that?
I'd probably need to know a bit more about what you're doing, but there's no problem with the certificate of origin stating the country of origin of the product. It depends where's the product going to, where's it coming from, and where's it going to.
Sorry. Well, it depends. It's different parts will come from different places and go out to different places. We build road sweepers, so we're looking at whether or not a part that comes to us, if it says EU, that would be sufficient, or if it would have to specify it came from Germany or it came from France or Spain or whatever.
We'd need to talk, it's probably best offline rather than getting hung up on it, but we need to talk about a thing called accumulation.
Okay.
Essentially the accumulation of value in the product and then as a result of that, how the origin is declared.
Okay, but I'm not talking about necessarily the things that are sold as part of the sweeper, because that would be, the sweeper's the sweeper, but about things that we sell as parts. So for example, we might buy, I don't know, some hose that comes from France, and then we need to export it to somewhere else. If it says France, is that going to be okay or EU, sorry, okay for the country of origin? Or would we need to say France?
If it's a hose that comes from France, the country of origin would need to show as European Union.
It would show as European Union. Okay.
EU would be fine in that respect.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Interesting.
Can I just clarify, Tudor, that it's essentially whether we look at the brown, sort of the browny gold coloured certificate of origin that we all know and love, which is mostly used, not exclusively, but very often used for the Middle East, but also the EUR documents, the ATR documents, all of those, technically, they're all certificates of origin. It's just that we call them by different names.
That's correct. Yeah, essentially they all provide the same thing, and it's based on obviously with the EUR ones and things, because we've had that been part of the European family. There's been that document there, but I suspect actually, if anything, when we move to sort of third country status, it'll become a lot more simplified, because everything will be sort of based around one form as a third party country. Just going to pick up on a message here from John Sheehan, and this is a question really which I wasn't aware of, and again I'm going to ask Graham whether you'd heard anything. This is Graham Card, I should ask, so because it's to do with Northern Ireland EORI numbers. Their business has just been informed that potentially Northern Irish EORI numbers may not be supplied until January. Now, this is a chicken and egg. You can't do one without the other. Had you heard whether or not there is a delay in those being issued at all, Graham?
I hadn't, and with some surprise, John, I now have, because I've heard it from you first.
Okay.
I don't. My immediate thought is to let your MP know which.
John, do you want to just come off mute and just let us know where you're based?
Hello there. We are exporting from Maidstone.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to suggest that the MP can solve everything. I mean, let's face it, many of the Kent MPs voted for something or voted against something just a few hours ago that they didn't achieve. But I do believe that if it's frustrating trade, then that would be an important person to engage with.
Yeah, are you a member of the chamber by any chance, John?
We're not at the moment, unfortunately.
Okay, I think certainly from members we have a lobbying part to the chamber, and we can sort of harass and harangue public bodies. But yeah, if you want to take direct action, then Helen Grant's your MP there, and you could probably maybe have a chat to see whether or not there is an issue. But we'll certainly look into it, and obviously for the benefit of our members, we'll be pushing forward on that. Okay. There was a question then again from Julie there. It's around, she's hoping that so we won't need ATRs for Turkey after Brexit. I think at the moment, I'm not going to answer that question because anything could change. One of those difficult situations we are in is in particular with C of O's, ATRs, EUR1s and such like, because of the fact that it is very dependent if there is a deal of some kind or not. So I won't say you're going to get rid of those just yet. Because that might be sort of false hope, but I will certainly, we'll make sure that you are kept fully informed as and when those changes are known to us. So that's it. Okay, I'm just looking to see if there's any more questions before we bring things to a close. No, that's great. Okay, Graham McKay, thank you very much indeed. I'm hoping that we have your slides all ready for circulation. Obviously, been recording the event as well. Is that okay?
Absolutely, yeah, you should have those already.
Super. Thank you very much indeed. Graham, today has just been an absolute revelation on many fronts, not least of which because I thought I knew pretty well what was going on, but there have been so many subtle changes, and it's only through the contribution that experts such as yourself, who have put in a lot of time and effort, I know, sort of getting on top of these issues and trying to get the answers, that we are all going to be sort of far better prepared here in Kent than perhaps elsewhere. So I'm really, really delighted that you've taken the time to come across to us. Thank you very much indeed. I look forward to doing some more webinars with you, Graham. I hope we get to continue to do some things. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your contribution. So the Chamber of Commerce, obviously, as I mentioned in one of our earlier presentations, has been acting as an agent for many, many years now, decades, providing validation and compliance for export documentation. So we've been a trusted partner for the HMRC and working with international chambers and countries around the globe, ensuring that the products that are part of any preferential trade agreement are validated and genuine and therefore eligible for the discounts. What that's done, of course, that's enabled the chamber to make sure that we have a really good infrastructure and a really good, reliable and well-practiced process and systems that enable us to be able to handle a vast number of complex compliance issues and sort of put them through their paces so that we can deliver a really good quality of service. One of the things that we recognised some years ago now, when obviously it was the EU referendum took place, was that there was going to be a need, or if you like, some sort of reverting to the original customs arrangements that used to be in place. Now that was speculatory at the time, and to be honest, a lot of it was seen as being a worst case scenario. And for those of you that are long enough in the tooth, you'll remember there was such a function as a customs clerk, and they were the ones we sat there with their stamps and their ink pads, and they were sort of people that knew the inner workings and the bizarre codings that involve working with the customs procedures. It seems that over the last couple of years, the nature of the discussions and negotiations with the EU and the way in which the political process has gone means that we are fully reverting to those days of old, and therefore, whilst we can still bring about a degree of efficiency through electronic means, there is still essentially this process that needs to be followed and adhered to. It's going to be really, really important that we sort of keep on top of this. So what we've worked with is the British Chambers of Commerce utilise their skill set to make sure that we had in place a robust service and process that was going to appeal to not just the HMRC, for whom ultimately we were sort of acting as an agent, but also provided the best possible service to the clients and the members of the chamber, to really try and make sure that we are helping drive as smooth a transition as possible. And we've been involved from day one with all of the stakeholders and government departments, really trying to lobby and push forward what we know to be the best processes available. We've worked with our colleagues in Australia and in the US and other parts of the world to try and make sure that we've learned from their sort of mistakes and some of their experiences, so we can sort of develop things. And what we've come up with is a brand. It stands alone. It's called Chamber Customs, and we, as an accredited Chamber of Commerce here in Kent, act as an agent for the Chamber Customs Service, which obviously is delivered by the British Chambers of Commerce centrally. If you sort of ask why the Chamber, well, one of the things that we do is we sort of work on assurance and compliance. We really wanted to make sure that if we're working with freight forwarders or any other sort of transportation company, if they're going to use us to help support their operation, they need to be confident that what we're doing is compliant and is trusted, so that there are no issues when things get to the border. And for those of you that heard this afternoon's presentation from Toby around the Kent access permit, if the paperwork isn't right, nothing is going to move. So it has huge cost and financial implications to not getting this sort of stuff right. So you need to make sure that as an organisation you're dealing with a customs broker who can get it right first time, so that your goods are going to sort of not be sort of hampered on their journey. And of course, trying to make sure that we've got a service which is future-proof and HMRC compliant. The HMRC have to have confidence and trust in us as an organisation, and so we've spent a long time developing this service to make sure that it meets all of those requirements. So what can we do? Well, we can offer you a customs brokerage service. All of our staff have been trained. They've gone through a fairly lengthy a sort of 4 or 5 module training program, which not only covers the practical inputting and processing side of things, but also talks a lot about the wider aspects of the freight flow and the sort of trade process, whether that be from the EU to the UK, or from UK to the EU, or the rest of the world. We're trying to sort of work with freight forwarders, trying to sort of help work with them, because they have other key issues they're having to deal with as well at the moment, obviously in terms of sort of the Kent access permit and the movement of vehicle goods and obviously registration of driving licenses and so forth. So actually this is another additional piece of administration burden that we can take off them. So we're working with freight forwarders as their, if you like, white labeling behind the scenes. We already do, as you can see from today's demonstrated program, we obviously work with all of the businesses in Kent to try and answer queries, questions, incoming calls, to try and understand and help them sort of navigate their way through, which is going to be a new set of skills and a new sort of complex area of knowledge. Maintaining the high quality and assured trust that you have with us as a chamber already. Working with developed partners, so working with I2I at the moment to sort of help them automate and sort of digitize a lot of this process to keep it sort of as simple as possible. And again, very timely given the pandemic and where we are all now. The last thing we want is people running around with bits of paper getting documents stamped. It's much better if we can do this all online. And of course, we're working with direct links to the customs handling system. Perhaps one of the things which is most significant about what we've managed to achieve is that we are registered for all ports. So quite often you'll find forwarders and logistics companies will register with their local port, be that Dover, Thamesmead, Tilbury or so forth. Actually, because we are running this as the British Chambers of Commerce, we have managed to secure all ports access. So whether that be air, land or sea or rail, we can process documents for declarations for goods that have come in through any one of those channels anywhere in the UK. So if you have a container that's coming in on the back of a lorry through Dover, and then the next one's coming in through Liverpool docks, again, we can do the same declarations because we can manage that regardless of where we are. There is costs involved, of course. That goes without saying. We've sort of tried to make sure that we are keeping the costs as viable and as realistic as possible, whilst maintaining the quality assurance that is expected of us and has been delivered so far on a lot of the customer export documentation we've done so far. So this is the pricing structure we have. It's £25 per declaration, and that includes up to 5 lines, 5 product lines under the commodity code, and then it's £5 per additional line. For import, because there's more duty involved and obviously more clarification around, it's £55 per declaration. Again, that includes up to 5 lines, and it'll be £10 per additional line. Occasionally there are port charges. It all depends on the product that's being brought in and obviously whether they're going to be there. We're not going to sort of try and sort of take terrible advantage of that cost. We will simply put in a small handling fee and then recharge, but it's all transparent. You can see exactly where the money's been distributed to. In terms of the payment of duty, we can offer you a Chamber Customs deferment account, which is a lot quicker sometimes, as we heard from Sue Rathmell earlier. From MHA MacIntyre Hudson, it can take a while to get these things set up, and I think certainly if you're not certain at this stage, it might be worthwhile just going through the initial few months with us as a chamber, taking care of all of that for you, allowing you time then to sort of figure out the lie of the land, what the true impacts to you are as an organisation, and then you can maybe sort of put that in place. Fast clearance via Traders Deferment account, again, there's no charge, and normal clearance via the HMRC's FAST account. We also provide training. So on the basis that you use us perhaps for the first few months until you get yourself sorted and you know what the impact's going to be, if you then feel you want to take that on and do those declarations in-house, we can help train you on that and put you through the programs. You need to sort of invest in the software, obviously, and make sure you've got adequate resource, but we can help you with that training as well. And Graham, who you've heard a lot from today, is one of our coaches on that. We have a dedicated individual within the chamber, and we'll be building the team. His name is Ben Moore. Some of you may have come across him already, but Ben is supported by the rest of the export team. We'll be sort of working on moving this service forward. It's available. The contact details are here. So if you have any questions or want to sort of register with us, we need to get you through what's called an onboarding process. We can get you registered, get your deferment account set up, or at least take the details of any deferment account you may have set up independently, and we can start to talk you through some of the processes in terms of product lines and hopefully get things done before we run out of time. Bearing in mind, Kent Access permit we saw earlier, it requires all this sort of stuff to be done and in place before the vehicle is allowed to move. So don't delay. I would encourage you to sort of get in touch with us, customs at kentinvictachamber.co.uk. Or if you want further information, there's some downloadable guides and some other documentation which you can read through just to sort of help maybe answer some more questions. And you can read that at chambercustoms.co.uk. That's all I'm going to sort of share with you now. You're more than welcome to email any questions you have through to the customs at email address. Hopefully, most of you will have taken away some real positives for us from the whole session. It has been illuminating for me as someone that works in this field. But I really hope it has been educational and informative for all of you on board. Thank you very much indeed to all of the speakers that have been involved today. We heard some great input from Nathan from Trading Standards, KCC. He really knows his onions. And if you've got any questions around compliance and sort of certainly food and drink and labeling stuff, definitely he's your man. And we can sort of pass questions on to him. Again, grateful thanks to Jan and to Mark from the Belgian Food Standards Agency and from the Dutch Chambers of Commerce. Then, of course, we had some really good feedback from Liam Smith at the BCC around trade facilitation. Again, some real technical questions there, and we've got some stuff to go back to. Graham Card, thank you very much for hosting on that one as well. KCC, of course, contributions from Roger Goff, Mike Whiting throughout the course of the day. It has been really helpful to understand what Kent is doing, and Toby's presentation around the KCC highways and how things are being prepped and planned. Again, there's been a lot of hard work put in by some really diligent people and dedicated people, and I think it's really important that that we as businesses don't try and fall back on the old argument of, oh, I didn't know, no one told me. I don't think there's any excuse for that. There's been a lot of people putting in a lot of effort trying to make sure that you are made aware and that the answers are there to the questions you may have. It's never too late to ask questions. You can always come back to us. We'll be there. You've already seen some of the organisations there to support you, the Kent and Medway Growth Hub, Visit Kent, Locating Kent, Steve Sampson and his Kent International Business, Sue Burdo obviously delivering some of the loan funds, the funding that's been available there, a huge amount on offer. And then of course we had some very complex questions for Sue Rathmell on the VAT side of things. Really good. Don't forget your Incoterms. That is a starting point. What are the terms of trade? That will then determine what you do and don't have to get involved with. Again, if you're not sure, contact us here and we'll try and provide information. Great information again. The UKCA marks from Graham McKay. Thank you again for taking the time to join us. And of course, the chamber itself, and in particular Molly, who's been sitting there patiently in the background. Give us a wave, Molly. And the rest of the team you can't see. They're also really busy in the background, running around, giving bits of paper. And of course, our area representatives are here as well, Kaz and Kelly. So if you're not a member of the chamber, now will be a good time to try and track these people down. But finally, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for all your contributions, all your questions. Please do ask a question. If you don't have the answer, we are here to help. For now, thank you very much indeed. Have a very pleasant evening. And if I don't speak to you before, have a very good Christmas.